Alright, today I'm going to be doing a little instructional on how to put the Walkera 2D brushless gimbal on your original DJI Phantom 1 FC40. Just the box that it came in. I got tired of my footage being shaky and I didn't want to upgrade to a Phantom 3. I probably could have with the money that I've spent and time that I've put in it, but there's a little fun learning about how to do it and whatnot. So I came from this right here, which is just the original Jello mount with the mount that came with the copter. And as you know, while you're flying, it pretty much moves exactly how your Phantom moves. So if it's windy or anything like that, it's going to be constantly moving like that. And if you try to edit your footage after the fact, after it comes back down, if you try to do image stabilization, it usually crops it too much and there's nothing you can do with it, so it's pretty much just unusable. So it's decent to take pictures with if you can get it level and stuff like that, but for the most part, this is the beginner step in learning how to fly and learning what to do with it and stuff like that. So I felt that I was ready for the next step up. So through my research, I couldn't find too many videos, instructional videos on YouTube, nor the internet for that matter, on how to install this device on a Phantom, being that it's a Walkera product. So through listening through stuff in different languages and other stuff like that, I finally got it put together. I probably should have made a video during the installation, but I guess it's a little too late for that. I don't want to take it back apart, but it's pretty straightforward. I'll try to walk you through it, so if anybody else wants to do this, they can do it as well, because it took me about a day and a half to figure it out, when optimally you can get it done in maybe 3-4 hours, probably not even that long. So the first step will be to take off your landing gear. Obviously take off your old mount, and to get started, you'll take off the 4 screws that hold in the props. I mean, not the props, I'm sorry, the landing gear. So it'll be 8 of those on all 4 sides, and that'll give you a little better access to mount the plate that holds it into place. Now, one thing I did learn before I started the installation is you're not going to be able to bolt it into both of the holes under the belly of here. So you're going to have to move it back one space, and if you just put that one screw in tight enough, it isn't going to go anywhere. And also, if it's kind of out of line, you can still move it to get it how you want it to be. So with that being said, once you get that mounted in, the gimbal itself is going to slide onto that little plate. I think it slides in from the front, so it's going to slide in this way, and that's what's going to hold your device in place. Now, I'm sure as most of you know, I knew my wires weren't going to be long enough for this installation, so I went ahead and got I got 4 heat shrink wraps, which are these right here. I didn't know what those were before I did this as well, but you just put a little heat onto it. I just used a lighter, or you can use a hair dryer or something like that, and you scoop the wires in there, and the plastic will melt onto the wire and hold it in there to ensure your connection. So, and that will be necessary because after you take the top off, which we'll get to in just a second, the wire that they provided isn't long enough to tap into the Phantom's power without having to have an external power source. So you'll need to lengthen the wires to get the power from here, which comes out of here, and it's going to go over here to your power side. So that's going to be on your left side if it was sitting upright. So proceeding on, what was that? Oh, wire extension. Just some regular power wire. This is the thinnest I could find. The ones you have are a little bit smaller, but this ended up working out just fine. Just some regular positive, negative wire. Positive is red, negative is gray. So it looks like I used probably 4 inches maybe, and that was probably just a little too much, but I wanted to make sure it didn't get yanked around too much. So just like I said, you go ahead and shave off on all 4 ends of the wires, or really it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ends, and you put the heat shrink wraps on, and you can go ahead and extend your wire. Now, one thing I figured out after I did this installation is you can either extend the wire longer, and you won't have it as sloppy looking as mine, because I kind of didn't want these out here, but it was after the fact that I realized they were going to be on the outside, but the purpose still serves just fine. It really doesn't matter to me. I'm not trying to make fashion statements or anything like that. So, but anyway, you can make it longer, and you only have one set out here, and you can put this set over here that's still exposed outside on the inside. So to take off the top cover of your Phantom plate, you're going to need a 2mm Allen wrench as well as a small screwdriver, and you're going to take off a total of 4 screws and 12 screws that take the 2mm wrench. So you're going to be taking off this screw here, these 2 here, and this one up here, and that's going to apply the same for all 4 arms on your Phantom. So like I said, it'll be 1 here, 2 here, and this one here. You do not want to take these out, because this is what holds your motor in. This has nothing to do with taking the top of this thing off. So excuse me, once you get your top taken off, you'll have access to your power extension wire, which will be this little wire right here. It'll be on the front right leg of your Phantom. So you can go ahead and do your power extension for that, and you can put this on the inside of here instead of on the outside like I did mine, and that way it'll be hidden a little bit. But make sure, before I realize this as well, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but make sure you put your leg back on, unless you just use some tape or something like that, because my heat shrink wraps barely fit back through the hole that they go through on the leg to run the wire back out. So make sure your extension adapters can fit through this hole once you get finished putting them on, unless you're going to kind of be in a bind and have to cut your wire again and do the whole process over again. Moving on forward, once you have the top of your Phantom exposed, I can't remember what side it's on, but I'm pretty sure y'all all know about the F2 port. That's where this wire here is going to be going. Now with mine, I had a small little crack and mishap on mine, so I was able to cheat and run mine right through here without it being pinched or crimped too much, because this screw in here is missing. You'll probably see what I'm talking about once you get your install started. So if you want, I just took my knife or a razor blade, and I just made it just a tad bit bigger, and I was able to run my wire through there, and it's able to hold it in place but not put too much pressure on it to where it's crimping the wire. So you can do that if you want, or you can also just run it back through one of the legs again. But you'll probably have to, well, you will, not probably, have to cut these adapters and put, I think they're called J adapters or something like that, but they're just two red prongs that will plug into each other to be able to run this wire, like I was saying before, back through the hole in this landing gear, because this adapter will not fit through the hole here of your landing gear. Now moving on to where you can get this wire from. I looked online. You can pretty much get it from anywhere. It looks like they sell it in bundles. They don't sell excuse me, they don't sell singles. You might can find it at XLE or Hobby King or something like that, but I just went to my local hobby shop. They had a 12-inch and 6-inch. I believe the 6-inch was $3.99 and the 4-inch was $4.99, so I got two of each, because if you can tell, this is the short little wire that they supply. Well, being that it's for the Walkera QX350, I'm sorry. I'm assuming this will be all that you need. It came with two of them. So one went from the bottom over to here, and then I just used my extension to go over into the Phantom, and it's going to go into the F2 port in here. There's only one way it can go, so you can't mess it up. And once you get that ran, it's going to go over here all the way to the right hand side, this is the right side of it, into the pitch control, which will be here. I can't tell you what the inside was, but out here I can tell you it's white, red, with black on the bottom. But like I said, it can only go one way, so you can't mess it up. And once you get that done, you can go ahead and reassemble your Phantom, just making sure you adhere to all the steps before. And that's how you get this wire extended to go from the inside of here from your control board to where you tap into the power onto the other side over here, which is where the power is. And like I said before, whatever method you find best for you, you can run the wire for the pitch control however you would like, but it's going to go from the F2 port over to here. I don't really know what this switch is for here. I've just been leaving it on one, and it's been doing just fine, because the directions they provide with this thing, the English is kind of comical. It's okay. It's not as bad as some of those other ones, but it took a while for me to understand. So after you get all of this done, you can, whenever you want in this process, you should know how to mount these by now. Just slip them back through the holes and get your gimbal mounted on here correctly. Now, one thing you do want to make sure of is not to power on your gimbal without a camera in it, because it can put mechanical binding on your gears, being that it's a brushless motor. So make sure you have your camera in here before you turn your unit on. Now, I thought I was going to be able to use my I guess you can call it an SJ4000, but my SJ4000 knockoff inside of this gimbal. Now, I was incorrect in that matter, because the SJ4000 knockoff is just a tad bit larger than the Hero 3 and 4. So I wound up purchasing a Hero 4, which I like better and have been wanting anyway, but this gave me a reason to go purchase one for this installation, because the gimbal will serve zero purpose if I don't have anything to put in it. So, as you can see, this camera is just a tad bit larger, so it will not fit in here with this provided front cover. So, what I saw a few people do online that I tried but just didn't want to do because I wanted it to be done the right way, which is how I like to do stuff, you can, they took some blue tacky or something like that, basically just something sticky, and they put that in a penny or whatever you can get to match the weight of a GoPro Hero 3 or 4. I can't remember what the exact specifications of the weight were in grams, but that's what you're going to want to match it to get the gimbal to balance correctly. And I do know they put the weight on the gyro on the back of the gimbal. So you can go that route if you want to do that, or you can just use your standard Hero 3 or 4 and it should work just fine. So after you get your camera installed, hold on a second, you should be about ready to go to power up your gimbal. Trying to think if I left any steps out. That should be it as far as the installation. These wires up here come pre-plugged in, so you don't have to worry about those up here. So you can go ahead and put the top back on. It's going to be the same way it came off. There's going to be right here where this screw goes, in here on all four sides, there's going to be a lot of wires right there. Make sure they're not in the way. Just kind of maybe wrap them around the post or something, because you don't want to screw through those and sever your wires and possibly lose connection, and then you have to take it all back apart and so on and so forth from there. So make sure you don't crimp your wires while you're putting this back together. Make sure your wires are all out of all the ways of your post in here. So after you get all back reconnected, your GPS, compass, and all that other good stuff, you should be looking about like this, but with the camera in it. Now, once you power up, let me get my controller real quick. Once you power up, it should balance itself correctly. You shouldn't have to do anything to it whatsoever. Now, as you know, this is a 7-channel installation. This is easy to put in. I found plenty of videos on this, but if you have any questions or are wondering about it, feel free to leave comments or message me or something like that, and I can help you through the process. Because somebody helped me out, which was very helpful. So I'm just trying to pay it forward, show anybody else that's curious on how to do it, because like I said, it took me a day and a half, when optimally this only takes a couple hours. But as I was saying, this is your 7th channel control, and this is what's going to control your camera tilt. Now, upon installation, let me get the camera here. Say this is sitting this is probably how it's going to be sitting when you get it. Maybe a little tilted, maybe a little back. So you're going to have to go in and adjust it. But moving back to what we were talking about, this right here is going to control your tilt. So when you move it like this, it'll move like that. And it might go a little too far, or it might, hell, I think it turns back upside down. And then once you move it back, it'll move like it's supposed to on like that. So basically, this lever here controls this movement of the camera, because it doesn't move like that. It just moves like that. So to get this installed, like I said, it's going to go in this top hole. There's 2 holes. Make sure you put it in the top one. There's only one way to put it in. It's got a little sticky mount on the other side of here, which is going to hold this plate into place, and you'll be able to move it with your middle finger while you're flying, or whatever finger you prefer, like so. I prefer this mount. I think this movement ball mount, I think they had a few more, and they might have offered a few different options, maybe a wheel and a knob or something like that, but I like this one because it's not too big, doesn't get in the way, and serves the purpose just fine. It has some little grips on it, so you can do what you need to do. to another step to install this. If you're curious about this, you're gonna have to take the 4 screws out, and the remote's gonna come apart by holding. I held this here, and it's gonna come out a little bit like this and pull downward, and it's gonna separate from here, from in this little grouping right here, and it'll just pull out like that. Okay, so as I was saying, your gimbal comes with a little toolkit, and I think this is the little J adapter that I was talking about. Your adapters, because my gimbal is permanent, but I have 2 Phantoms, so it doesn't bother me. But if you ever want to uninstall, you can get you a clip, an adapter like this for each side, and hook your wires up that way. That way you can uninstall your gimbal if you ever want to, because I'm not sure yet, I haven't flown it yet, but I do know it's probably going to drop your flight time, being that it's a little extra weight, and it's tapping into your power from your supply battery. It comes with a few different tools. The smallest wrench is the one you're going to need, the 2mm. Well, it might not even be 2mm. I don't know how big this one is, but the smallest one is the one you're going to need to take your camera cover plates off, which are here and here on the top and bottom. And that's about the only thing, yeah, it is the only thing you're going to have to disassemble to get your camera in place and get this thing working properly once you get it installed. So after you take that off, put your camera in. You shouldn't, well, make sure you hold on to this, because another thing I noticed, you can't charge your camera unless you want to put it in there upside down. If you put it in there right side up, you can't get to the charging port because of this motor over here, so you're gonna have to take it out, or like I said, put it in upside down to charge your camera while it's still in this unit. So after you get that installed, as I was saying, your camera tilt is controlled by that lever, but it's gonna move way too much, maybe even, like I said, all the way upside down. But obviously and optimally, you want it to move like this. So the way I got that set up is you go into the DJI NASA. They have some videos on this, but if you don't know how to do it, like I said, just leave me a comment and I'll come in and help you, walk you through the process. You go into NASA. It might be either Tools or Advanced, one of the two, and there'll be 2 spots for gimbal. It should be off. So you just go over and click the on, and maybe 1 block over to the left, one of those tabs should be calibration of the X1 channel, because that's the channel this runs through, and that's what you're going to want to calibrate your 7th channel on your controller, your transmitter. And basically to do that, you just click start, and you'll just move it back and forth a couple times, and then click finish, and that's all there is to it. It's not real difficult. So after you get that done, like I said, you'll notice that your camera moves way too far. So you'll have to go into your gimbal, back to your Gimbal Control, and set up, I think it's the pitch. I know it's the one on the top. It's going to be the very first one, and if I remember correctly, mine was about 430 something, and my minimum was maybe -50 or somewhere around there. I can't remember, but if you want me to check for you and you're curious about what it is because you have no clue what you're doing, like I said, just leave me a comment and I'll help you out. But basically just trial and error, because you can get it to move as far as you want. I wanted mine to go straight forward and straight down, so that's what I was shooting for. So basically you'll just input a number, you'll press enter to input that number, and judging how big your range is that you move from, your camera will, well, the gimbal I should say, will move just a tad to what your maximum or minimum is. I know your maximum is straight up and down this way, and your minimum will be pointing down this way. And I know towards the bottom, the last box is how fast you want it to move. Your values can be anywhere between 0 and 100, with 100 being really fast movement and closer to 0 kind of slower if you want a smoother shot, which is what I was going for. And that's about the last step as far as, well, second to last step as far as technical difficulties with this install. Once you get your camera where you want it, you're gonna have to go under the belly of your gimbal and mess with the V1 and V2 ports. The V1 port is your, whatever this is called, probably tilt, which will be this way. That's the V2 port, and the V1 port, no, I'm sorry, it's backwards. The V2 port is going to control this way, and your V1 port is going to control that way. So once I got it set up, my V1 port was pretty much okay because I could adjust that inside of my NASA. So it was sitting okay. It was just sitting a little to the side like this. So what I did was, it comes in the book as well. The instructions were pretty vague on how to do it. That was the most difficult part for me. That was mostly trial and error. I do know there's a little button in here. It's going to be your, it looks like a function button, FM button. You're going to go in with this little tool that they provided right here and hold the button down for 3 seconds. After you hold the button down for 3 seconds, you're going to want to hit it 3 more times until you see a yellow flashing light. Once you see a yellow flashing light, you're going to go in to your V1 and V2 ports that I mentioned earlier and make sure, well, it's going to help you align it, and they're going to be aligned this way with this little tool here. When neither one of them are aligned, it's going to flash yellow and red. When one of them is aligned, it's going to flash yellow, and when both of them are aligned, it's going to flash yellow and green. Once you get it flashing yellow and green, you can take your tool out and don't touch anything for about 5 to 7 seconds. And you're going to hear, I heard a little motor whir sometimes you didn't. And then you can set your gimbal down level, and it was kind of, this is the most difficult part because you have to get under there and move these screws while you kind of can't see where you're going because your gimbal needs to be leveled. So, like I said, after trial and error, you just go in and you adjust each of those V1 or V2 ports, whichever one you need, to get your gimbal sitting correctly, and it's going to move the motor inside of the gimbal for you and stabilize your camera. Now maybe somebody can answer this for me. I just got lucky and finally got it right because I didn't know how to save these settings and exit out of this. They call it PAM mode, P-A-M. And like I said, I didn't know how to exit out of here and save these settings to get back to the regular flight mode, which is all green. So sometimes I would save it and I thought I saved it and it would just do whatever it wanted to do. So it took me about a good 10 times to get this right, but maybe y'all can figure it out better than I can. Post a video, do something, figure it out, and that'll help you do this a little bit faster, because that was the most time consuming part for me, was getting this thing to sit level and straight like I wanted it to. And after you do that, that's pretty much it. That should be your last step. You can double check it to make sure it's doing what you want it to do, because it's going to have power obviously the whole time you're doing this, so your battery is going to be in there. It's still going to be a tight fit for the battery, mentioning that. It's going to look like it can't fit. This is about as far down as it can go, but you can press it down just a little bit more and it'll slide right in there for you. What was I about to say? Like I said, that's pretty much it. While you're hooked up to NASA, I just went ahead and did an advanced calibration to make sure she was flying level. And that's about it. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask. My username is Import Tuner, 2 T's, IMPORT TUNER 1150. If you have any questions on how to do it or how to rig this up, being that it's not a Phantom product, but it works just fine, and it's a very cheap alternative to either upgrading if you already have a Hero 3 or 4 to the next one up, and you can still keep your original copter. It was pretty basic, pretty simple. Like I said, the last step is the most difficult one for me, and you should be good to go after that. So it was raining the day I put this in, so I'm about to take it outside, give it a test run, and I guess I'll upload a video, and we'll see how she looks after that. Alright guys, see y'all later. Thanks for tuning in.